Hello everyone, and welcome back to another EU4 video. Today, we're going to be doing a guide for the nation of the Mamluks in EU4 1.34. And before this video begins, I would just like to say, do make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as it helps out immensely. We've been gaining a lot of subscribers recently, so I want to keep that momentum going, and with your help, I know we can do it. So now, let's jump into the Mamluks. The Mamluks is a nation located in modern-day Egypt at the mouth of the Nile River. The Mamluks are located between Arabia, North Africa, and are kind of at a nice crossroads as you're close to Europe, but you're really not in Europe. You're right at the edge of the Mediterranean. Combined with their very unique starting position here as Mamluks, they also have a very nice, unique government type, as you can see right here, called the Mamluk government type. Basically, it gives some really nice modifiers, one of the best of them being minus 25% advisor cost ruler's culture. That is extremely overpowered, and that's to start with. You also get +2 guaranteed admin skill, which is very nice. You shouldn't have bad admin rulers, as well as some extra governing cap, some nice accepted cultures, and of course you will lose some autonomy over time. All in all, very nice national ideas from the Mamluk government type. You also have a unique event which happens every time that your ruler dies and there's a succession, and when that happens, I'll go ahead and show you what to do. Along with that great government reform, you also have some very nice national ideas focused largely on trade, with some mill ideas sprinkled in there. As you can see for the first one, +5% global trade power and +10% trade range. For this one here, +1 yearly prestige, +15% manpower recovery speed, very nice, +5% discipline, which is always very handy, +10% production efficiency, which is very powerful on its own. Combine it with the amazing trade goods that we have here. We have cloth here in our capital, and then you have some spices, some grain, even some gems. -15% stab costs, always very handy, and +10% trade efficiency. And for your starting traditions of the Mamluks, you also have +10% cavalry combat ability, which is amazing because Muslim cavalry, which is what we're in with the Muslim tech group, is already really great to begin with at the start of the game. This only makes it more powerful. In this guide, I'm going to show you to not only succeed as the Mamluks, both military and economically, I'm also going to show you how to destroy the Ottomans, as they are one of your biggest threats at the start of the game, and I'm going to show you as the Mamluks how you can own Arabia very quickly, whether that's directly or through vassals. For your opening moves as the Mamluks, you want to, of course, issue your estate privileges. For the ulema, we want to get established religious school, religious diplomats, and religious state. For the emirs, we want strong duchies, as we're going to have quite a few vassals very soon. Increased levies for that extra manpower, and primacy of the emir. For the merchant guilds, you want private trade fleets, patronage of the arts, land of commerce, and indebted to the merchant guild. For the dhimmi, for now, you just want grant dhimmi liberties. However, and don't forget to summon the diet, choose whichever one is best for you. I'm going to choose this one right here, and of course, seize land. We are making enough money at the start of the game to afford level 1 advisors in all 3 categories. As the Mamluks, you really shouldn't struggle for money, as you have a fantastic trade node with great trade goods. For your mill guy, ideally you'd want a discipline or morale. I don't have that, so I'm just going to take this fort defense guy. For diplo, ideally you want a diplo rep or an improved relations. I don't have that, and take this spy network construction guy. And for your admin, ideally you'd want a stab cost modifier guy or an inflation reduction. I don't have that. However, we will need to take this stab cost guy, and I'll show you why shortly. So I'm just going to go ahead and take him. As the Mamluks, we have a very unique ability to be able to basically vassalize a lot of people. As you can see here, we basically vassalize a lot of people in Arabia. We can vassalize some people here in Africa, and I'm going to show you in this guide who you should be vassalizing and why, and who you should avoid vassalizing. For your opening alliance as Mamluks, go ahead and ally Medina. You're already guaranteeing Medina. The reason you want to ally Medina is because you want to eventually vassalize them, so you can complete this mission here called the Holy Cities, which will give you the claims that we need to keep expanding. So go ahead for your first ally Medina. And don't forget to send your light ships to protect trade. I'm going to send mine to Aleppo and go home during war. For your rivals, of course, go ahead and just set whoever has rivaled you. You want to rival the Mamluks, as that's who we're going to be attacking. You can rival QQ as well, and I'm just going to go ahead and rival Lithuania. Why not? And make sure with all of that money that you have, go ahead and start building up your navy. Of course, you want to start building galleys as you are in the Mediterranean, and don't forget to build some transport ships as well. And for your second ally/vassal, here in Arabia, you can go go ahead and ally whoever you want down here, Naj or Dawasir. You don't want to ally anyone down here, as you will get claims, and you also don't want to ally or vassalize really anyone up here or even right here, as again, you're going to get claims on these provinces. So go ahead and, if you'd like, vassalize and ally Dawasir, Naj, and maybe even someone over here. You also start guaranteeing the Kingdom of Cyprus. It's really up to you if you want to keep guaranteeing them or not. Keep in mind, if you do keep guaranteeing them, you likely will be able to vassalize them. And the reason you want to vassalize them is not really because of their army, but because of their navy. They have 11 ships just on their own, which is very handy, especially when you're going to have to fight the Ottomans and potentially some Christian nations like Aragon. So it's up to you if you want to keep them guaranteed or allied, or you can just leave them be. Keep in mind, they will be attacked by the Ottomans if you stop guaranteeing them. So it's up to you. I'm going to keep them in my game, but again, you can do whatever you want. And once you get enough allies, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Trustworthy Allies. This one here you want to hold off on before you annex your vassals, as this will be completely wasted if you take it now, as you won't be able to annex most of your vassals for some time. And once you improve with nations that have a scholar, if you don't know, Muslim nations each have various Islamic schools that they follow, which give various bonuses. You can see some give legitimacy, some give shock damage received, etc. Some give minus 10% AE. So in order to get them, you need to improve with these various nations. I improved here with Dawasir, as I want to have them as vassals. So I got the Hanbali Scholar, which in my opinion is one of the best ones for Sunni nations. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And once you vassalize Medina or conquer them, you can go ahead and complete this mission called the Holy Cities. And you'll get this event here called the Fate of the Holy Cities. Basically, this gives you the option where Hejaz will inherit Medina. You basically leave the vassals as you are. You stay with your two vassals of Medina and Hejaz. Or you can do this, which basically just gives you some dev. I recommend taking the top one, some prestige, and you'll only have one vassal compared to two. And by this point in the game, once you've gotten a couple of vassals, it's time to go ahead and declare your first war. Now, if you're familiar with the Mamluks and how to play them, you're probably familiar with this strategy by now. However, for newer players, this might be slightly daunting. Basically, for your first war, if you want to inflict the maximum amount of damage to the Ottomans as possible, then your first war is going to be a no CB war against Byzantium. They're normally not allied to anyone big. As you can see here, their one ally won't even join. Don't be worried about the war exhaustion or the stability hit. That's why we have the stab cost discount, guys, so we can keep stabbing up. So for your first war, as the Mamluks, go ahead and attack the Byzantines for a no CB war. And once your starting ruler dies, you will be faced with the Mamluk succession. This should happen pretty early, as he's really old at the beginning of the game. Basically, the way that the Mamluk succession and government works is you get various modifiers from the culture of your ruler. So the Mamluks start out as Circassians. You can see this guy is Circassian here. However, what you need to keep in mind is we don't have any Circassian provinces here. They're pretty much going to be all Egyptian, Bedouin, and stuff like that. So as you can see here, you can't do recruit from Circassian lands because you don't have any, so you get no bonuses. As again, we have no Circassian lands, so you can't do any of these interacts. So for your Sultan, ideally you would want your Sultan to be of the majority culture. Another reason why you want them to be of majority culture is because we get minus 25% cost of advisor with ruler's culture. And since we have no Circassian lands, none of these advisors are going to be Circassian. That modifier basically doesn't work. So choose either Egyptian or Syrian. I'm going to go ahead and choose Egyptian. You're not able to see your stats. However, if you do choose a Circassian, you do get more army tradition, which is quite nice, and they have a strong claim. However, it is not worth not having that advisor discount cost, as well as the interactions, which can give you money and manpower and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this Egyptian guy. As you can see here, he's actually quite good. And of course, don't forget to stab up. And for the peace deal with the Byzantines, you can of course just go ahead and fully annex them. You can go here and say to make them a vassal. However, keep in mind this will give them an extra negative opinion of you called forced vassalization. Whereas if you just take these provinces here by yourself, then release them, you won't have that modifier. It does cost more Diplo power to do it this way. However, it is worth it as they're much more likely to be loyal and won't hate you for as long. So for the peace deal, go ahead, just fully annex them. And of course, after we do that, just go into your country tab and release Byzantium. And after vassalizing Byzantium, it is time to get ready to fight the Ottomans. The earlier you fight the Ottomans, the better, as in the early game, you are actually a lot stronger than the Ottomans. However, in late game, game, as the game progresses, the Ottomans become stronger and stronger than you, as well as your Muslim unit pips become worse than the Anatolian ones. So the sooner you attack the Ottomans, the better. And by vassalizing Byzantium and holding these provinces, we have just put a pause on their expansion. So go ahead and get ready, hire some merc companies, build some more units, but most importantly, build a spy network on the Ottomans so that the sieges can go faster. And by this point in the game, the Renaissance should have spawned. In my case, it actually spawned in Genoa, which is very lucky for them. If you have reached Tech 4 in all categories, then of course you can start developping up your capital to 30 development, because we want to tick off the age objective called own a large city. However, I don't have 4 in all categories, so I'm not going to do that yet. And by this point in the game, you can go ahead and attack the Ottomans for the first time. In my case, I actually allied Karaman, but now they won't join because they're cowards, so that doesn't really matter. I am going to call in Cyprus though. The Ottomans normally won't ally anyone big. Usually the biggest people that they're ally might be AQ, like they have in my case, and Tunis. Don't really worry about Tunis. They will attack you from this side. If they get too close to sieging your capital, then you can always just ship troops back. Keep in mind that you do have quite nice fort placement as the Mamluks, so you do have this fort protecting your capital, and you have a fort on your capital, so you don't really have to worry about Tunis. So go ahead and attack the Ottomans using, of course, a reconquest core of Byzantium. I'm going to choose this one right here and call in Cyprus. And for your tier 2 government reform as the Mamluks, you want to take strength and level privileges for that extra manpower. And for your peace deal with the Ottomans, go ahead and take something like this. Of course, give back Byzantium all of the cores that they have here. Another thing that you need to take, as well as giving back Byzantium all of their cores, is of course make sure that the Ottomans keep their capital here in Adrianople so it's easier to siege down. What you also need to do is make sure that you take at least one Bulgarian province here. As you can see, Silistria is Bulgarian. The reason you want to do that is we're going to release Bulgaria as a vassal so we can reconquer the rest of the cores here in the Balkans. So take these provinces and give them back to Byzantium. Take all of the Ottoman money and take war reps, as you likely have quite a lot of loans. And of course, after you take the one Bulgarian province, make sure you go into your country tab and release the nation of Bulgaria. And after fighting the Ottomans, it's now time to declare on the countries that you have claims on down here. I actually got claims on Dongola here from an estate mission. You normally won't get these, however, you will get claims on all of the nations down here: Yemen, Rasids, Miklaf, etc. So before you attack them, just look at the alliance networks and see who's the easiest to attack. Oftentimes, they are allied with one another, as you can see here. However, in my game, Miklaf is the easiest one. Actually, they're allied to both Dongola and Rasid. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is attack Miklaf, co-belligerent Rasids, co-belligerent Dongola, since I have an estate mission to take some provinces down here. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Miklaf. And for your first Splendor ability as the Mamluks, I recommend taking Justified Wars. And for your peace deal with Miklaf or whoever is here, of course, you're going to go ahead and full annex them if you can. Sometimes the nations down here will blob really big. I've seen Yemen basically take all of this, so of course, in that case, you'll just take as much as you can. So I'm going to full annex Miklaf, full annex the Rasids, and take as much as I can from Dongola, take this for the estate agenda, and take something like this so I can start snaking down to the Ethiopian gold mines. Take a peace deal like this and send it. And now it's time to see who you can declare war on next so that you can finish up getting your claims. Look at the alliance networks. Again, people are allied to each other. So in my game, Hadramut is allied to Yemen here. Oftentimes, some of these guys in Arabia will ally occasionally someone in Africa. So do keep that in mind, as you will have to walk around and go down to Africa to siege them. In my game, I'm going to go ahead and attack Hadramut. Co-belligerent Yemen, their ally of war Sangali, won't join. However, Adal will join, so I'm just going to go ahead and send an army down there to quickly peace out Adal. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Hadramut for this province, co-belligerent Yemen. And after you grow your development by at least 50, you can go ahead and take this mission called Expand Mamluks. It basically gives you some free dev in your capital. One thing that I forgot to mention, which is actually very important, is make sure that you embargo Venice. Even if you don't rival them, just embargo them for a month and then bring the diplomat back so that you can complete this mission here called Alexandrian Trade. Or you could also build a marketplace or a trade depot in Alexandria right here. However, the easiest way and the cheapest way to do it is just to embargo Venice for 1 month, so go ahead and do that regardless if you're a rebel or not. This is very important as it'll give you claims here on the Syrian desert. And now it's time to do your second or third or however many wars you fought with the people down here. I'm going to go ahead and just, of course, full annex them if you can. Since I co-belligered Yemen, I can full annex both of them. And if you haven't already, as you're expanding into more Shia, Coptic, and even potentially Jewish lands, make sure that you give out guaranteed religious minority rights to the dhimmi if you haven't already. It does give them quite a lot of influence. However, it will basically make it so that none of these provinces contribute to religious disunity. And one of the things that is very unique to the Mamluks is the ability to use these government interactions here. So you can go ahead and promote Egyptian government that gives you minus 5% all powers cost. That's not really that great. You can sell off Egyptian slaves, which actually gives you a decent amount of money. You can basically do this once you have enough of the mana points saved up. So once you have enough admin, once you have enough diplo, once you have enough mill. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. It's actually going to give me 10,000 manpower, which is actually amazing. These are sourced from all of your Egyptian provinces here, which is, again, why you don't want to be Circassian, as you have no Circassian provinces. So the two cultures that you want to accept, of course, are going to be Egyptian and Syrian, as those will give you the most stuff, whether that's money, manpower, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and recruit from Egyptian lands, since I am very low on manpower. And now it's time to declare on one of these northern Bedouin nations that you have claims on, whether that's Aniza, Hassa, or whoever might be here. And now it's time to declare on one of these northern Bedouin nations that you have claims on. In my game, Aniza is allied to the Ottomans. This is quite common. The Ottomans will do that so you don't have an expansion route. So if this is happening, you think you can take on the Ottomans and you want to shorten your truce, then you can go ahead and attack them. However, my truce is almost halfway up with them anyway, so there's really no point. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Hassa instead for the conquest of this province. And for your second splendor ability as the Mamluks, I recommend taking improved war taxes. And for the peace deal with whoever is here, of course, you want to just go ahead and full annex them. In my case, I can't take these provinces myself because it's out of coring range since I don't border them. Ideally, you want to attack Aniza first so you can take this. However, I was going to give this to my vassals anyway since it's so low dev and I don't want to core it myself. It's basically no AE or Diplo because, again, there's absolutely no dev here. So just go ahead and do something like this. You can either give these provinces to your vassals or take them yourself. Take as much money as you can take and send the peace deal. For your first idea group as the Mamluks, of course, you want to open with a diplomatic idea group. Either diplomatic ideas for those extra diplomats or influence. Influence is better as we are going to be annexing our vassals at some point, and that extra force limit is very, very nice. Along with all of this other stuff, it's just a good all-rounder. So go ahead for your first idea group. If you have enough diplo points saved up, then take influence ideas. And now in my game, I'm going to go ahead and attack Aniza as the Ottomans are basically getting destroyed by the Polish, as you can see here. So I'm going to go ahead and attack them since the Ottomans won't join. If this doesn't happen in your game, don't worry, you'll be able to fight Aniza usually in your second war against the Ottomans. You can just full annex them if you want, if they'll join. But in my game, I'm going to go ahead and attack them since the Ottomans will not join. And of course, for your peace deal with these little Bedouin nations, just fully annex them. In my game, my truce with the Ottomans is almost over. However, I noticed that since the Ottomans are losing to the Polish, they actually will not help out the Tunisians. And I have built up some claims here on Tunis, which is what you should be doing. Unfortunately, in the Ottoman mission tree, you don't get any claims on Tunis as far as I know. So you'll have to build them up manually. So make sure that you are building up claims on Tunis so that if an opportunity like this strikes, you can go ahead and take it. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Tunis for the conquest of Sirte, and of course the Ottomans won't join. And once you annex these provinces here, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Pacify the Bedouins. It basically gives you claims on Syria and some parts of Anatolia. For your tier 3 government reform as the Mamluks, I recommend taking royal favoritism. This extra minus 10% cost of advisors with rulers culture pairs really well with the Mamluk government type. As you can see here, we already get minus 25% cost, so this is an extra 10%. So I recommend taking royal favoritism. And for your peace deal with Tunis, you basically want to take something like this. If you can, take take as many of the centers of trade as you can. I can't take their capital since I don't have enough war score, and this war is already going on long enough because those Moroccan mountain forts are very annoying. So just go ahead and take something like this. Take as much money as you can and as many centers of trade as you can. And by this point in the game, your truce with the Ottomans should be up. It should have been up probably a few years ago if you declared around the same time that I did. Go ahead and attack them. In my game, they are basically a shell of their former self. They got destroyed by the Polish and they're getting destroyed by the Austrians, so I want to attack them before Austria takes these cores of Bulgaria and Byzantium. So go ahead and attack the Ottomans for the second time. It should be much easier than the first time. And for the peace deal with the Ottomans in your second war with them, go ahead and take something like this. Give the Byzantines back their core in Adrianople. Give back as many of the Bulgarian cores as you can. Ideally, most of your war score will be spent giving back all the Bulgarian cores here. However, I can't because Poland and Serbia and all these other people took them since they ganked the Ottomans, so I can't do that. So instead, I'm just going to give back as much as I can to my vassals and take some of these provinces that I have claims on, something like this here, and take as much money as I can, and that's it. For your third splendor idea as the Mamluks, if you're able to get this far, go ahead and take adaptive combat terrain. Make sure that you are building production buildings in all high-value trade good provinces, so of course cloth, sugar, spices, and especially paper, as the Mamluks actually get an event called Administering an Empire, where the price of paper goes up by a substantial amount, so make sure that you're building production buildings and later manufactories in all of your paper provinces. Unfortunately, the Mamluk mission tree is quite old and bare bones, so a lot of the stuff here you have to do manually. So if you'd like to expand further into Africa, make sure that you are spying on whichever nations are here. Usually it's Dongola, although I have seen Adal or even Ethiopia just get this far north. So if you'd like to expand, which you should, as there's a lot of gold mines down here, make sure that you start spying on these nations, as there's nothing in your mission tree to attack them. And once you finish building up a claim on these African nations, you can go ahead and attack them. I'm going to attack Dongola for the conquest of this province. And for my peace deal with Dongola, I'm just going to go ahead and take something like this. I can full annex them, but in my case, I am saving up admin points so I can get the next tech for my next idea. So I'm not going to waste all those admin points. And plus, all of these provinces are pretty much useless. And the reason you want to attack Dongola in the first place anyway is to sneak to get these gold mines. So I'm just going to go ahead and take something like this. If you have the admin points to spare, of course, just go ahead and full annex them if you want. I don't, so I'm just going to take these provinces and all of their money. And for your second idea group as the Mamluks, I recommend taking quality ideas. The reason we want to do that is, again, we're going to have a very powerful navy here, a very nice Mediterranean navy, so this extra morale of navies is nice. On top of all of this nice stuff for the artillery combat ability, this cavalry combat ability is very good, as it pairs quite well with our starting traditions here, where we already get plus 10% cavalry combat ability. This will give us even more, and this infantry combat ability is very nice, as we will have to be fighting the Europeans, especially in my case, as if I want more Bulgarian cores, I will have to fight the Polish. On top of that, of course, you get the discipline when you finish it, but you also get a nice policy there. It's a Diplo policy. It's called the Integrated Administration Act. Some extra income from vassals, which is, you know, pretty nice, but also that institution spread. Now, that plus 10 institution spread is really nice, as we will be struggling with institutions. That's kind of one of the Mamluks' downsides, their crutches, is that they do struggle to get institutions compared to the Ottomans, who can get them a lot quicker. So for your second idea group, make sure you take quality ideas. And by this point in the game, your nation should look a little bit something like this. You should have expanded slightly down into southern Africa here. You should have vassals spanning most of Arabia, and you should have conquered northern Arabia by this point in the game, as well as you should have fought at least 2 wars against the Ottomans, maybe 3 if you're able to cut down your truce somehow, and you should have given back most, if not all, of the cores that Byzantium has. They have one here that Naples owns, and you should have given back most of the cores of Bulgaria. I wasn't able to do that because the Polish attacked them. However, if the Europeans don't attack the Ottomans, then you should be able to give back most Bulgarian cores in your second war with the Ottomans. You also should have expanded into northern Africa, into Tunis. You can release a vassal here if you don't want to core this stuff yourself. yourself. You can release either Tripoli, Bazan, vassals like that, so it's really up to you if you don't want to core this stuff yourself. You should have quite a few vassals as the Mamluks. Remember, as the Mamluks, you have a unique starting ability to basically be able to diplo-vassalize a lot of people right at the beginning of the game. So you should have diplomatically vassalize a lot of these nations here in Arabia. Ideally, you'd want to vassalize both Hejaz and Medina, especially Hejaz, so that Hejaz can inherit Medina later on. And you should have conquered this part, and you should have conquered Yemen, as well as some of these other parts you might have claims on. In your game, as you're continuing, of course, you want to keep expanding into Northern Africa, eat up Tunis. If you have a vassal, feed it to them. If not, just core it all yourself. Of course, continue to expand into the Ottomans. Ideally, you'd want the Ottomans to not exist after a few wars, and you'd want to give them back all of the cores of both Byzantium and Bulgaria. And of course, you'd want to keep expanding into Arabia, eventually annex these vassals here, and you'll own all of Arabia. As you continue to expand to Arabia, make sure that you accept Bedouin as an accepted culture. In fact, you can go ahead and do this now. You can also accept Yemeni if you want as well. When you accept these cultures, you will be able to select rulers from these cultures that you have accepted, so just keep in mind, if you accept Yemeni, you'll be able to accept Yemeni rulers, Bedouin rulers, etc. So go ahead and accept more of these cultures as you continue with your conquests. For our first two idea groups, we took influence and quality. Influence helps out with these vassals tremendously, is when you start to get a lot of vassals, sometimes they do start to get a little bit uppity and disloyal. However, influence will make sure that that doesn't happen. Your second idea group, you should have taken quality, as we will need to start buffing up our army, as we will have to fight Europeans and potentially even some bigger nations here, maybe some Timurids. Maybe the Timurids stay together, maybe there's a Persia or something, so you will have to make your army a little bit more powerful. So go ahead and take quality ideas. That will help out tremendously, especially with your navy. For your third idea group, I recommend taking trade if you have enough diplo, or if you don't have enough diplo and you have more admin, then take economic. If you didn't take trade for your third one, then take economic. If you took economic here, then take trade. Or you could also do this. There is a colonial path for the Mamluks. So I have seen that people will colonize the Mamluks. They'll go into the Malaccas, as that will make you quite a lot of money, especially with trade ideas. So for your third idea group, you could go trade, or you could go exploration. So for your third idea group, instead of going trade, you could actually go exploration if you want to. However, I recommend your third idea group either economic or trade. And for your fourth, if you didn't take trade here, then take trade here, or economic if you took it here. These are the reforms that we took for the first three tiers. For tier 4, I recommend taking either maintain balance of power or curtail clerical privileges. For tier 5, I recommend taking either meritocratic recruitment, as you already have quite a few advisor cost discounts in your ideas, or dynastic administration. For tier 6, take general state. For tier 7, I recommend taking embrace the economic theory, or this one right here. For tier 8, if you are conquering a lot into Christian provinces, so if you're expanding up here, which you do get claims here from the mission tree, if you're expanding into Coptic, Shia, Zoroastrian, etc., then for tier 8, you can go ahead and take the social contract. However, if you're not struggling with the religious disunity, then just go ahead and take either this one here for the extra cultures, or this one right here. For tier 9, I recommend taking L'État Samois if you're struggling with GovCap, and you probably will, especially if you're blobbing. However, if for some reason you're not, then take this one. And for tier 10, I recommend taking right to petition. This has been a guide for the nation of the Mamluks in EU4 1.34. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as it helps out the channel tremendously. And let me know down in the comments what other nation you'd like to see me do a guide on. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.